GM Hoss, how's it going, buddy?
GMs. Another day, another dollar. Oh, this layer's coming up.
Hey guys, am I audible?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, cool. Guys, can you make the Risk Clear account a co-host so that I can let a few people in?
Yeah, I already sent you a request.
Hi everyone, how's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
Pretty decent.
Nice.
Recovering. My laptop just collapsed, so I'm calling in from the big computer.
Oh no, that's like the worst for Twitter Spaces. Like that means we're guaranteed to get rugged at some point.
Pretty much. Pretty much. It's like a high probability, right?
Oh, we hope not. We hope not.
It's all good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed.
Do we have anyone else? Or we have all right.
I think we're good.
Is that everybody we were waiting for here?
Most probably, yes.
We have another one from Emmett. I'm not sure who that is. I apologize if that's someone.
Yeah. Emmet needs to be in, yeah.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
All right.
Hey, GM. I'm from Chainside, invited by Sudipan. Great to meet everyone.
Hey,
Likewise.
cool. I think we are done on our end. We can like quickly kick things off.
Yeah,
But
we're all good then. Yeah, like
yeah.
my format's is roll, just chill, informal. Generally, like what I like to do, I think the audience and people that live and listen to recording just like to know people's backgrounds, and essentially, like one of the things I ask is, when did you get into crypto? And then like why did you start doing what you're doing now? Like what led you down the rabbit hole of why you're doing what you're doing now, basically. So I'm gonna pass it around.
Yeah, cool. I think that works. So maybe we can kick off one by one. So why don't you only start off first
All right.
quickly?
Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, for anyone who doesn't know me, I been in the space technically since like 2020, but like on a real like straight up grind, starting to do content and stuff like that. That started in 2021, like kind of like early 2021. Essentially, COVID got me into this industry. My first time I actually had some free time to like just dick around, and in fact, the first couple of months when COVID actually happened, I was laid off for like the first time, and before that, I played college ball and stuff like that. So I like never had free time ever in my life, and always loved tech. Got into it because my background was in accounting and finance, and I looked at like blockchain, more specifically Bitcoin, as like an alternative, like monetary accounts, like a system of accounts that's not stringent on like the government control in the fiat world. So it was kind of like I kind of gravitated to that, like the role based system. Everyone could participate regardless of where you live and what your background is and things like that. So I just kind of found it to be really fascinating. And if I go on mute randomly, it's because I have to clear my throat. I'm still getting over a cold. So 1 second. Anyways, yeah, so I just like found it to be really interesting in like my accounting background. I looked at a blockchain as a decentralized accounting ledger, then you build really cool shit on top of it. And then, I knew and I still know that we're like just really not even at the precipice of like what the totality of crypto can actually be. And it's really cool after all these years to see it starting to be more than just like a casino, if you will. So it's been interesting. It's been a long, fun grind. Been doing this for nonstop, and I just can't get enough of it. Even through the bear markets and the dark times, like I just see the light at the other end of the tunnel. So as more and more people come and get involved, and you're seeing it getting adopted. I mean, even if you just kind of only followed Bitcoin, you can track the numbers. More people own Bitcoin today than they did when I first got in, and I just keep seeing that being a thing. And just this industry as a whole. I mean, you look at how I don't even know how many total cryptos are now. It's ridiculous, but it's just yeah. So I just enjoy it, man. I really enjoy. I like love doing this, chilling and kicking it with people and seeing what they're up to and learning. That's the most important thing. I'm always a student, so that was my long, really winded intro. But GM, so I'm glad to be here, and I'll pass it
Yeah, yeah.
over.
I'll go next because I feel like Haas didn't do himself justice. I also am getting over a cold, so I'll be clearing my throat a lot. But I feel like Haas didn't do himself justice on one point, which is that uh, that Haas, whether or not he wants to be called Cosmos Haas or not, even though he's changed his name, is one of the best business development guys in the interchain ecosystem. He has been a crucial connector for dozens and dozens of projects. Being able to actually like know everybody and get respect from everybody inside of this, from business development to marketing to community members. Haas has been involved in anything and has really been a crucial connector. So for those of you that are in the audience that are like, thinking about dabbling in, getting involved in being in Web3, Haas is a great example of somebody that took his interest to the next level and has essentially become essential for business development for a lot of people in the ecosystem. So, shout out to you, Haas.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, for anyone that is interested, and I always encourage people to get involved, is you just have to be reliable, respectful, accountable, and you got to work hard. It's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. And like the way I roll is like whenever I have a private call or private DM or I'll hop on a space with someone. Well, space obviously is kind of public, but any sort of private setting remains private. Like I don't like I'm too old for drama. And you have to realize this industry, in theory, like everything's technically still a startup. So like sometimes you have to like go somewhere else and you don't want to burn bridges. And, I see people in this space, in this industry, they just kind of get a bad reputation because they don't get their own way and they pout and shout and start drama. And this is not the way I roll. Like I'm just grateful, man. Like, this space is so much better than working for some dickhead boss that doesn't respect you or doesn't like you don't get what you should get. And this space is technically the opposite. Like everyone's kind of grinding, and if you bring something to the table and you're, like I said, respectful, reliable, accountable, like things, you can get things accomplished in this space. So anyways.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tyree Robinson. I'm the head of ecosystem at Arai Chain. I've been with Arai Chain since 2021. I do, everything from partnerships and DevRel to actually architecting, helping to architect new solutions, especially as we're looking more towards the omni-chain ecosystem. So I'm really excited. I've had the pleasure of working on almost everything that Arai Chain has produced in the past couple of years, NFA, but I am personally also involved with Risk Layer, both as an angel, but also I'm happy to be there to advise on anything that they need and help in BD. So I am very excited about all of the potential that Risk Layer offers, and especially in light of one cool thing up here on stage. I'm not going to speak from the account because you don't need me talking from two different accounts, but up here on stage you're also going to see Thesis Foundation, which is a project that I started a little while ago, a few years ago, a few months ago, that has really been focused on developing the solution for omni-chain clearing, but really importantly, looking at as you're sort of building an omni-chain layer for DeFi, you have to deal with incentives, you have to deal with yield distribution in light of sort of native assets. So the message of make DeFi great again is something that I really believe in. I'm glad that we named this space Make DeFi Great Again. We have a lot of work to do to reclaim DeFi. And I think that Risk Layer is offering an essential part of that toolkit moving forward to take DeFi to the next level. So very excited about what's coming. I'll pass it to you, Sudhi.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the kind words, Tidy. But we also have in the call a very special person. Nadir has already joined the call. He needs no introduction. Nadir, so the quick intro on what we are doing over here is we are basically discussing our crypto journeys, how we came to be in crypto. So I'll quickly give an intro on how I came into crypto, and then maybe we all of us can continue on whatever we were speaking. So my crypto journey started off quite unfamiliarly from the academic perspective. So I was doing my master's and bachelor's in mathematics and computing from IIT here in India. And while I was doing that, got introduced to distributed systems through some of my professors. And then was working at that point on typical crypto economic security within a local area network in an organization. That led me to feel that economic modeling or economic risk modeling, to be specific, is a very big problem in DeFi, and that's why we started off what we have been doing almost for a year now at Chain Risk Labs, where we are supporting projects like Compound, Angle Labs, Gyroscope with their crypto economic risk management. But while we were doing that, we came across a very good team of researchers and engineers who joined us to together build what Chain Risk Labs is today. But at the same time, we have been figuring out how to actually commercialize risk as a metric across DeFi and across the entire eigenlayer stack, and with potential use cases coming across some of the other prominent projects like Byzantine and a couple of other projects, right? We have been figuring out how to actually give out risk APIs to the industry and stream those risk feeds across. And for that, we are building out an entire ABS on eigenlayer. We'll keep on discussing all the technical shenanigans, but I'll let the mic over to Nadir to give a quick intro of how he journeyed into crypto.
Hey, yeah, what's up, everyone? Glad to be here. Sorry I'm running a little late. I am walking around in Singapore. I got here a few hours ago, and kind of my sleep schedule is all jacked up. So anyway, yeah, I guess I've been a developer for about 13 years. Been doing developer education for about 9 of those years, but writing code, throughout all 13 years. Still pushing a lot of code. I joined the blockchain space about 4 years ago. Worked with the Graph, worked with Aave, worked with Celestia, and now I'm working with Eigen Labs. And big fan of Risk Layer. I feel like you all are kind of the first to do what you're doing as an ABS, but maybe even the first to offer what you're offering. Period. So glad to have you all building with us, and glad to be here hanging out.
Cool. Thanks for the kind words, Nadir. Maybe we can now go off to Alex, who's been a very dear friend, helping us out a lot on strategizing how to go about risk layer and how to think about the more research perspectives of it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. Really appreciate it. I guess I recently graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, and really that's where I got into crypto. We have an amazing blockchain organization there called Franklin DAO, that was created by some close friends of mine. I came in, and then after leading educational kind of efforts throughout the university for a semester, started leading our governance delegations, and I'm currently a delegate at Uniswap, Compound, uh, Renzo, etc. A couple other DAOs as well. But the same friends that started Franklin DAO, namely like Chunda McCain, you know, invited me to kind of like start building in DeFi with them as well. So since then, we've created Ion Protocol, which is a lending protocol specifically built to underwrite the risk of slashing for staked and restaked assets. Um, and I think this like ties into kind of like our North Star of how we've taken a look at the ecosystem and where it plays into like our relationship with risk layers is that we like really index on infrastructure risk rather than market price based risks for these kinds of assets. And since creating Ion Protocol, we've topped out at like 15 mil TVL at one point, and we've gone on to build another product that will actually benefit Ion Protocol in many ways. This new product's called Nucleus, and it's essentially like yield provider for networks. So we're creating infrastructure risk based strategies to eliminate market price from like the yield generation activities that inherently drive revenue to networks and their users. So if you think of like natively yield bearing tokens branded for a network, we're taking out the market price risk of generating this type of revenue so that people can earn revenue on a consistent basis by default without much risk. And this way they can compound it safely throughout DeFi on these destination chains. But we can go into it a little bit deeper later. I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you guys.
Hey, thanks a lot, Alex, for that great explanation of whatever you guys have been doing at both Ion and Nucleus. And of course, Franklin DAO has been there for quite a long time, especially in the governance involvements. And we've been having a lot of conversations with you guys about Compound as well. So yeah, super excited on that front. And we now have like Jonas from Byzantine. So, we have been having a lot of conversations recently about how we could help them, especially on their AVS risks front. So, yeah, Jonas, if you could quickly give your intro.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Jonas. I do operations at Byzantine. My personal background is generally in the economics and finance direction. So I have kind of an academic excitement about a lot of the crypto things. And personally got into it with the meme coin craze late 2017. But then what got me and my co-founder to found Byzantine was that we saw the original Eigenlayer white paper, end of 2023, and became insanely bullish about what restaking can do for this entire space, what that actually means. I mean, so many people talk about it as shared security, but really it's shared computation. And once you look at I don't know, I could go on for very long about this, but once you start looking at shared computation, the opportunities, the avenues you can think down effectively become endless. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to make restaking the best it can be. And right now, what we saw as lacking in the industry is proper aggregation infrastructure, strategy building infrastructure, and risk management infrastructure. Essentially, everything that happens from the liquidity provider, from the restaking investor side. And that's exactly what Byzantine is. We separate the restaking investment infrastructure from the risk management functions. We have our infrastructure layer that aggregates this, and the strategy layer with the permissionless construction of these strategy vaults. And yeah, that's how we originally got in touch with risk layer, because our big theses are that the key is not just making it technically easier, but also functionally and in terms of decision making a lot easier for users to make better investing decisions. And when I first spoke to risk layer, it's not just that they had a really, really cool, really quantitative approach on how to analyze the risk of AVSs, but also that the team, whenever we speak to them, it's really nothing short of electric. So yeah, shout out to risk layer, I suppose.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Cool for we've been like heavily working on whatever we are doing, and since I said that, I came across a very great team of mathematicians and researchers. So now we're at a stage where we can definitely speak loudly about all the methodologies that we use internally, both at chain risk and risk layer. But now we have also have a very interesting integration coming up on chain sites end, right? So Emmett has already joined from chain site. So Emmett, if you could quickly give an introduction and how and say how chain site could possibly enter into the entire risk space and revolutionize that.
Hey guys, GM, and yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Yeah, so my personal background, just to get that out of the way, I came straight into Web3 basically after dropping out of college and teaching myself how to code. So kind of just went all in, figured out what worked, figured out what didn't, got rugged a couple of times, got a couple of wallets hacked, until everything eventually started to stick. Yeah, aside from that, I do have a background as well in legal tech and AI. So although I haven't been in the space like the longest, I have been pretty diverse in terms of what I've been up to, projects I've been taking on. Yeah, and I originally, well, to give the TLDR of Chainside first, we're basically building the programmability layer for oracles, and more broadly, the reusability layer and composability layer for data as a whole. So what that means is, and to get into how I got in touch with the risk layer team in the first place, is on top of our infrastructure, we wanted to demonstrate how exactly or how flexible exactly we could get when it came to data programmability and the limits basically we could push the current Oracle model. When you think of oracles, you typically think of price feeds and competing latency to get like the fastest price data. We wanted to focus on an angle that's quite different, quite niche, but equally as important, which is other financial metrics associated with a given asset, such as volatility, value at risk, expected shortfall, all of these metrics that are typically used in like a traditional finance context. We wanted to bring that on chain, make it transparent, make it reusable, and yeah, generally widely available. So our main proof of concept that our CTO built for this was the first quantitative framework, fully quantitative framework for asset rating. We went to market with it rating stable coins. And so the integration that we're working on with Risk Layer is actually making this a data source on Risk Layer's infrastructure and making asset rating, fully on-chain asset rating, as widely accessible as possible across different chains. We're cooking up a few things, yeah, on the data layer, but also on the relaying side of things, and yeah, just trying to like push the envelope in terms of how much risk data can be brought on chain, how many chains it can be brought to, and yeah, excited to see where it goes, and yeah.
Cool. Super excited for all the integrations that could happen on chain sites and but the point to be noted over here is there's one person in the listener who had given a very good line about price and risk altogether. So price has no meaning without risk. So I think that's what we are achieving together with Chainsite. But interestingly, in this in the esteemed speakers, we have someone who has given the date of Ethereum merge, right? And he had also been one of the Eigenlayer fellows last year. I would like to also tell that he's also the chief scientist at Chain Risk Labs and one of the core contributors at RiskLayer, who's solely working on the proof of risk consensus right now. So, Abhimanyu, if you could give a quick introduction about yourself, although I boasted about some of the bigger points, but how you came about to be in crypto.
Hey guys, thanks, man. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so I started in like crypto. It wasn't really completely crypto. It was like, I mean, it was basically crypto. I didn't know it at the time. I joined Nethermind as an intern, where I was basically, so I think that was the first time that they made me as like a a hire that they didn't know what to do with, but I ended up like joining in and basically helped a lot with some of the core engineering aspects of Nethermind through statistical applications. That's where I ended up co-writing the EIP 5133 with Tomas, and a few of my really good friends, Josh and Eric Marty, who still are at Nethermind right now. And yeah, after that, that basically the EIP basically ended up pushing the difficulty bomb to basically your 22nd September 2022, so as to incentivize users to go from users to basically adopt the merge, go to the beacon chain, and so as to not end up having Ethereum to be two forks, basically, right? Like the Ethereum Classic situation. So if we were wrong, there would have been like a lot of repercussions on Ethereum itself, people losing their assets, so on and so forth. And I remember like we only had 4 days to solve the entire problem. And we stayed up nights because I had no idea what the difficulty bomb was, like before I started working on it. But yeah, we ended up being right. The 24 hours that on the 22nd of September were the biggest, like were the hardest 24 hours of my life, where I was worried about, if we're right or not, so on and so forth. But yeah, Ethereum is still running. We're happy that the merge was a success, so on and so forth. And yeah, after that, I joined a decentralized AI startup called Hyperspace AI. Now, it was at the time it was trying to be fastest blockchain in the world. I was helping with designing the consensus algorithm, the distributed computing system, so on and so forth. And then we pivoted into an AI company where I pretty much was doing the same things, except I was working on LLMs at the same time. That was when I basically got introduced to EigenLayer, because we were trying to build an AVS on top of EigenLayer even before EigenLayer itself had any documentation whatsoever. Because we saw a talk by Sriram Kannan himself, which on EigenLayer at the time. And yeah, that was when I realized that I was heavily inspired by Sriram Kannan at the time, because I have like a similar background. Uh, because so I'll talk about my academic background in a bit, but that's who I want to be basically, when I grow up, I guess. And yeah, I ended up. We talked with Sriram Kannan. We tried to build the first AVS on top of EigenLayer. uh, it's my ideas to build the ideas that I had, which we needed to build on top of EigenLayer. I used those ideas to apply to EigenLayer's research fellowship. I got in. I had a really good conversation with Shobhik Deb, uh, Jeffrey from the team, and as well as Kaido. Really great guys. Love talking to them. We had really good ideas about integrations. And yeah, after that, I ended up joining ChainRisk. I was starting in the innovation slash research sector at the time. It was still pretty nascent. And then, yeah, we grew. I'm the chief scientist now. And yeah, so academically speaking, I'm studying statistics at the University of Alberta. And after that, I'll be a research associate as well at this university in statistical mechanics and dynamical systems. And we have a few papers coming out in like pure math and all that stuff by the end of the year. Hopefully, there's a lot of stuff coming out. We also have done a lot of work at RiskClear. The technical document has seen a lot of improvement. The light paper right now is for investors and laymen who want to know about RiskClear, who want to know what we're doing, why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. Ideas are limitless, applications as well on top, limitless. It's not just limited to risk management or strategies that you can make on top of EigenLayer, on top of RiskLayer. I'd love to use them interchangeably, but yes, the applications are limitless. You can build AI, you can build whatever you want, right? And I'd love to talk more about that. I mean, once we get going on it. But yeah, love to see you guys here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll let you, I'll just pass the mic back to Sudeepan.
Yeah, cool. I think that was quite an extensive research introduction. But I think let's get to the topic. Let's like sort of have an informal discussion on what the state of DeFi is at this point. I think Hoss has some like strict comments on that, so we'll start from Hoss. because the topic of this spaces is to make DeFi great again. So we should first talk about where DeFi stands today.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely don't have to talk too much, but I think like DeFi is just it's like it's very important, right? Like everyone understands that, but let's face the facts, like most trading, most activity happens off chain, which isn't good, kind of defeats the purpose. And it's kind of, if in my opinion, it's designed, it's flawed. Like it kind of creates this atmosphere where, as a user, even if you want to be a loyal user to whatever protocol, you're almost forced not to be because of it's just like it's just an extraction value. Like everyone just extracts value, and it's just a tough kind of what do you want to call it? It's just not it's not going to flourish. It's not going to take off because, like I said, I mean, I'm a huge degen. Like I've tried everything out. I don't want to say everything, but like for the most part, I don't care where you're located at, what chain you are. I'll go check you out. And I've used so many different protocols. A lot of them, let's face it, are just like copy and paste, kind of very lazy. Not anything different or the game changing. Like some are. There's certain protocols that I have preferences to that I'm like, the first time I use that, I'll shout them out. Osmosis. The very first time I used them, I was like, it was a good experience. It was the first time in crypto when it came out. I think it was like June of 21. I probably found it like July or like the very end of June or beginning of July, and I was like, oh shit, this is fun. This is smooth. It looked good aesthetically. Knowing like how blockchains work and knowing that like I'm doing all these different cross chain, uh, essentially bringing things from different blockchains over. Because at that time, it still is kind of a pain in the ass outside of Cosmos, is like going from one blockchain to the other. It's just annoying. You got to know a lot. Typically, you need multiple wallets, which is kind of a pain in the ass. And so like there's all these different like friction points, and it's just like it's just not good, right? Like we needed there to be no friction, we need it to be easy, we need so many things, and it's starting to get there. But like as for the overall like trajectory of DeFi, it's just not, in my opinion, it's not in really a healthy place because it's so fragmented, right? Like even ETH, right? All ETH is all over the place, which is cool, but like all the L2s, it's all fragmented. Or if you want to do a swap or get this token or that token, it's just kind of a pain in the ass. So I see why people gravitate. A lot of them just gravitate to like a centralized exchange because like everything's there. It's kind of easy for them. And then not only that, like it hasn't really happened in like Cosmos per se. Generally, not even Rust based at the moment, but that doesn't mean it's not going to. There's been so many different exploits and protocol hacks, and then you get this like conception, is it like an inside job? And like from my kind of conspiratorial slash not much proof but just my overall feel about things, a lot of times it seems like it's some disgruntled ex worker for some protocol, and they thought they were due more, and then they say, ah, screw it, like let me just like backdoor in or whatever they do. Like I don't have like empirical proof, and I don't get into all that. I'm not, that's not my style. But like there's just so many risks, right? And it's like what are we doing here? And then you see all these things, and every single time there's an exploit or some sort of like negative thing, in my opinion, it sets the space back, especially when it comes to DeFi. It gets this like negative connotation. Because if you're like a new person, maybe you just got into that protocol and then it gets drained for millions of dollars, and you're like, what the hell? Like I thought this was like the future, right? And so there's just so many things. There's so many things. Excuse me. Like if I put it on pause, it's because I'm like coughing. Like I said earlier, I'm getting over a cold. But there's just so many like pitfalls. I love DeFi.
Yeah,
I want the best for it. I want every activity to be on chain. I think crypto could be so much more than just DeFi. But like that's kind of my long-winded, just like observation slash been using DeFi for 3.5, 4 years now. And yeah. So anyhow, I digress.
I guess I do have to, as I told you earlier, Haas, I have to hop because I have a call right now, but I do want to
yeah,
just
yeah.
like plug in with a little take. And I agree with you in a lot of ways here, and I think the numbers really speak for themselves, right? We have $180 billion in assets currently sitting on centralized exchanges, and only around 75 billion in TVL currently across every single chain that's in existence. Currently, DeFi trading volume represents 5%, maybe 6% on a good day of daily trading volume across the entire ecosystem. And now, so as we're all sort of looking at like what the future of DeFi looks like, we have to sort of start with, we have to start with DeFi summer. And I know that it's painful to go back there, and we all thought that DeFi to the moon was going to be a thing, but then by May of 2021, right? The bubble burst, Uniswap, Compound, all of these great protocols.
UST.
No, UST was a little bit longer,
Oh
right?
yeah,
But
22. Yeah, it was like
yeah,
around
but
May of
yeah,
22. My bad.
exactly. That was like a year later. But UST was sort of a revival of DeFi summer actually, and
Yeah.
that kind of like you know really hit us hard because we thought that was going to be the next frontier. But so I think that what you said before, Haas, about this like rotation where people are incentivized to be disloyal because of this mercenary capital scenario is very real. And I don't think that pointonomics have solved it, right? I think that has become sort of a new way to get around sort of devaluing our currency, sort of eroding the value of our native currencies or protocol DApp currencies in order to align. I don't think that has solved the incentive problem. And honestly, I think Andre Cronje said it in a paper a few weeks ago, or a blog a few weeks ago, that DeFi works, right? DeFi works great, in fact, and the yields are excellent. The problem here is actually that we've trained users to expect unrealistic gains, and actually our user base is there now. I wouldn't even call them users. They are definitely stakeholders, but they're not users, right? they're not using products. They're depositing liquidity and extracting value from protocols, and that is it's something that needs to be fixed. In the process, we also have to fix fragmentation, and so to kind of get into where I think risk layer is going to play a role in this. Obviously, being able to look at protocol overall financial risk of a pool or an infrastructure or protocol is extremely important. But being able to go a step further and start to deal with autonomous financial agents, AI agents, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be, I think, the backbone and the best utility, one of the best utilities for Web3. You start to need this risk score plays such an important role for bringing transparency to strategies, making sure that strategies are effective, making sure that there's some optionality for the user, right? And so the next evolution of DeFi is to actually work towards making real yield more attractive, and long term to realize the ultimate vision of our whole Bitcoin inspired revolution, right? Which is we want peer to peer digital currencies. We want complete financial autonomy. We don't need handouts from protocols that are going to damage our sovereign economies, right? And so that's my view of DeFi, the DeFi state right now. And I apologize, I do have to hop, but I will say one of the things that I've been talking about with the risk layer chain risk team is the importance of credit scores and cross chain credit scores. This is something that although I know that it's gonna hit popularity soon again. That we started with back in 2021, and we put together our first cross chain credit score for lending protocols, and it was integrated in a protocol that was built across Phantom and Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum, that was allowed people to create their own pools, and then for borrowers actually set the credit score. So that it's not completely permissionless. Not everybody can borrow. You need to have a certain history in order to borrow, and that was done using a knowledge graph that looked at both, wallets balances, the ability to repay, how much leverage was on that wallet, really examining that behavior and extracting a score. So I think at the time, again, 2021 DeFi summer had just crashed, right? And we sort of came out with the solution in September, I think it was, of 2021, and it just wasn't the perfect time. What everybody in the startup world will know is that timing is such an important factor. of coming to market with a product like that. So today, I think that we have evolved and we've gotten into a place where we've started to push subsidy fi back, right? And we've gotten rid of the subsidies. Where in between in terms of what the best incentive structure is. But we do know that the next move forward is going to heavily depend on being able to leverage native assets across a wide variety of chains in order to start to sort of bring the market back to life again. So I think it's a huge opportunity. I'm excited to collaborate and share our existing work with Risk Layer and hopefully contribute to those credit protocols. And thank you for Haas for having me, and to the Risk Layer team for having me. And I want to connect with everybody that's on this call. Nadir and Sudi, I hope that we can meet up over in Singapore. I don't arrive until Tuesday, unfortunately, but I'll be there on Tuesday. But I look forward to hopefully meeting all of you. And yeah, cheers. Have a great day, guys.
Hey,
All
thanks a
right.
lot, Tyree.
See you, Tyree. I'm sure
Yeah,
his lady's not going to be too happy about that. He's expecting he's going to be a number
yeah,
two's on its way. Anyway,
yeah.
take care, Tyree.
Cool. So I think, yeah, I mean, we also recently posted regarding how do we explain this Claire to a 5-year-old, and we were telling that, if you let's say had to invest $5 into creating a strategy on DeFi, then what you have to do today is to use 5 set of random tools to actually backtest that strategy and then deploy it on chain. I mean, instead, you have like hedge funds where they have like a team of 100 people who are going ahead and doing this, right? So you have to yourself do all of those tasks if you have to play the right investment strategy, which is like a very hectic task. Even if you are like a long-term day trader, that's something which actually causes a lot of effect to your eyes as well, right? Looking to 8 different screens at some time and creating or curating your strategies. So that's where, just plugging and playing with our APIs across any ecosystem for that matter becomes a very crucial aspect of actually scaling DeFi. But we've seen like the entire LRT bust have happening, and after that, DeFi pulling off to almost about $100 billion. And then, as that always happens in DeFi, that the entire hype around LRTs again came down to a like roots and the first principles. And now we are again back to actually scaling DeFi through the first principles again. So, I would love to know from Nadir, how does he think about the DeFi space, even like doubling or quadrupling after Eigenlayer coming? I mean, like, how are different economies now getting nurtured by Eigenlayer?
Yeah. So I've spent time, at Aave, which is kind of a traditional, I would say, conservative, almost DeFi product. Um, and then I've also kind of seen what you all were kind of talking about earlier. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Haas that was kind of talking about the unrealistic yields that people got maybe during DeFi summer. And
Yeah,
then you have kind of the whole spectrum of products and things that kind of spread across that entire spectrum. You have like the very, very conservative, uh, trusted platforms for lending and borrowing, all the way to these insane Ponzi's that were kind of part of DeFi summer. So I think like you have, that spectrum of products. We also have a spectrum of people who've experienced those things, and there are people that do have unrealistic kind of expectations. And I think that that is a very negative thing for the industry, because those sorts of yields that people saw during DeFi summer are just not realistic, for mainstream products adoption and things like that. But I do think like DeFi products can offer much better overall experiences and products than traditional exchanges and other products, by having slightly better or better yields, along with all of the different, you know, characteristics of a permissionless protocol, things like being able to have full custody of your assets, being able to kind of integrate across, dozens or hundreds of different smart contracts, composability, things like that. But I don't think that the thing that we need to be kind of moving towards is finding some insane yield strategy. And instead, I think we just need something that's without a doubt markedly better than anything that can be had with centralized solutions, along with all of those characteristics that come with self custody. So if you combine those two things, and you also kind of get rid of the number of hacks and all of the vulnerabilities that we saw back in 2022, we haven't seen nearly as much lately, which has been great. A lot of lessons learned there. Security has gotten better. I think we kind of just incrementally improve month after month, year after year. And where we are today is way better than where we were a year or two ago. And I think a year or two from now, it's going to be even better. And I think the way the Eigenlayer fits in, it's just another way for people who are already holding and stake, or not even staking, but let's just say they were holding other tokens, or they are staking ETH. Like the people that were already holding and staking ETH, that really made Eigenlayer what it was. These people were already staking for a 3% return or 4% return, either natively staking or by using products like Lido, right? So for them, if they get double what they've gotten from before, that's amazing for them. You have those people that were extremely happy and continue to be happy with their staking experience on Eigenlayer. And then you have these airdrop farmer types of people who, I'm going to spin up 1,000 accounts and I'm going to I'm going to deposit 0.00001 ETH into 1,000 accounts and expect to get paid off some insane amount. That's just dumb. And I don't think we should ever reward those types of people. That's not real usage. Those people are extractive. Those are not the types of folks that we want at all. In fact, if we never saw any of those types of people get rewarded again, the industry would be way better off.
Yeah, they're pretty much parasitic for sure. What I want to do to reset the room is for anyone that's listening. Obviously, I don't really do this, but like, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So like and retweet it, share it with some people because I mean I think it's well worth it to give it a listen. But for those that are listening or will listen, if you could just give like a quick little elevator pitch that they're about like what Eigenlayer is, what is AVS, just so people can understand more conceptually, like what the importance of Eigenlayer is.
Yeah, for sure. You're asking me or someone else, by the way?
No, I'm asking you if you want to take it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm sorry if there's a little background noise here, but yeah, I mean, really, if you kind of want to boil it down, Eigenlayer is brought to the market about 5, I would say, different, completely new, either primitives or concepts or products that didn't exist before. So you have restaking, you have LRTs, you have ABSs, you have EigenDA, which enables this idea of like hyperscale rollups, super high throughput rollups, and then you have this idea of credible commitments, which comes with the Eigen token. So let me talk about some of those things specifically and try to really dumb this down or try to distill this into just a one sentence thing. So all of those things put together, you could just say that Eigenlayer is a developer platform that makes it 10x easier, 10x cheaper to build verifiable systems or decentralized networks or decentralized services or verifiable services, whatever you want to call them. It's just basically a developer platform. All of these things like restaking, all of these things like LRTs are essentially a means to an end to enable a developer platform for people to build stuff. And if you really think about it, like you can explain Ethereum by going into the EVM and going into the bytecode or getting into the ETH token. But in reality, Ethereum is a developer platform for building decentralized applications. That's the value that kind of Ethereum brought to the table, in my opinion. All of those other things are just a means to an end to kind of enable that. And Eigenlayer is kind of the same way. All of these things that people talk about, restaking and LRTs, or just a means to an end to enable developers to just have a much easier way to build out their ideas, build different services, build different products, and provide value to users and provide value to app developers.
Yeah, and like to kind of just sum that up, it's like what he was saying. It's really important because running infrastructure, like say you want to spin up your own L1 or an app chain and like other different mechanisms, it's just so costly. So you're always fighting gravity, in my opinion. So it's so hard to get off the ground, be sustainable. Sometimes it's not as difficult initially to get liquidity on your chain, but to remain, like we were saying earlier, it's kind of like mercenary. Because if you have some skin in the game, you're almost forced. Well, okay, there's the grass is greener on the other side, so once the yield kind of dries up, like like think of it as a crop field, like you're a farmer. The crops are good, and then there's a drought. Well, over there, there's a bunch of rain and there's good soil, so let's just go over there and fill that, yield that farm over there. And it's kind of like what this cycle that we've been going through, and we need to kind of knock that off. And also, we need applications, right? Like in this industry, I think if you want to like kind of give it some sort of like image, it's like if anyone's been through America in the middle of the country, it's very kind of like farm flat. You don't need 5-lane highways on both sides of the highway for the infrastructure, but it's like in crypto we have like 10 lanes on each side, but yet we only have so many cars using it. It's just such a waste of space. We need people that aren't only just building the roads and the railways, the highways, whatever you want to call it. We need people that are building the stores. We need people that are building the things that like users want to use and stay here and remain here. And I'm hoping that this is kind of the last cycle that is just more infrastructure based, and like the next cycles and the future cycles is more just like who builds the best applications, and who, it's all about applications. The VCs are looking for applications, they're giving people money, and it's just like this cycle of like applications, right? You look at your cell phone, everyone has whatever their favorite apps are, they use their apps, they don't give a shit like how it works or why it works. Not all of us, most of us probably do, because we're all we're all kind of nerdy, but most human beings just don't care why things work. They just want to use something that's fun and useful, that saves them time or money or educates them or whatever. And I think all that can be in this space, in this industry, but a lot of times we're all fighting this gravity, and we're all kind of like fragmented tribes, and yeah, it's just like difficult. So anyways, I'm rambling, but that's kind of like randomly my thoughts about everything as well.
Yeah, I want to
No,
touch on that just
yeah.
for a second. And I'm sorry I've talked a lot. This will be the last thing until I get asked to speak again. But I really I'm in agreement with you. And I also wanted to call out there that there's certain circumstances where applications cannot exist until a specific feature is enabled at the infrastructure layer. And if you want to compare this, you might look at things like OpenAI, and you look at things like Claude. So Anthropic has Claude. Claude wouldn't be possible without Anthropic, but Anthropic couldn't have built. I'm sorry, Claude couldn't exist without Anthropic existing. ChatGPT couldn't exist without OpenAI existing. So these infrastructure pieces needed to exist for the app to be built. Another example of this is Farcaster with Warpcast, and as well as Polymarket with Polymarket. So imagine if you built a prediction market protocol that was better than Polymarket. You wouldn't really be able to kind of like mimic Polymarket unless that infrastructure existed. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, I agree with you, but also we need to make it easier to build out this proprietary infrastructure so people can build differentiating features at the app layer. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, also right now, if you see the entire Eigenlayer ecosystem, I mean, Horst, the best thing is you could go and just scroll through Sriram's profile, and you'll like keep on reading throughout the day, because the way he explains is so simple that you'll like love it. So the best way to learn about all the AVSs and all what Eigenlayer is doing is to just go ahead and read about them through Sriram's tweets. But on the same front, I think at this point, a lot of AVSs are coming on Eigenlayer. A lot of these AVSs are base infrastructures rather than a lot of application layer use cases. So, for example, there are oracles which are developing on top of Eigenlayer. So all these oracles are basically the infrastructure which will power the applications which will maybe in future be an AVS on eigenlayer, right? And all of the things need not be an AVS on eigenlayer, as Vitalik also said, that don't overload the Ethereum consensus. So that's where we are all coming from. But on the similar front, if you go back to DeFi again, apart from just driving TVL as a metric to your DeFi protocol and getting in VCs to fund you for that, what's the other sort of metrics which a lot of VCs or maybe core devs are looking towards at this point? I mean, like Alex is, I think, the best person to answer that. To and actually get into those facts which a lot of outside people don't know about DeFi protocols and how DeFi protocols are being built.
I mean, I think like a lot of what has already been said kind of mirrors the way that builders on top of like the type of infrastructure that Nader was talking about are kind of looking at it. I mean, to put it just like very cut and dry and simple, like I think there needs to be like simpler interfaces for people to dive into ways to aggregate these sort of like strategies that are available in DeFi and various types of assets, right? Like we've seen LRTs and LSTs kind of come about in the past couple of years, and these have proven to be as much as like people don't want to be saying it's kind of like they've defined the risk-free rate for DeFi, right? So for anyone looking for like alpha on top of these rates, they're going to need to take on like higher risk. And how do we like justify those risks to people we work with protocols like risk layer and chain risk to kind of like define that within the protocol, but then also making it easy to just gain exposure to that in a risk adjusted manner is like what's most possible. So I'm very bullish on ideas like vaults. I think that a lot of DeFi protocols are actually leaning towards that. Nucleus is all built around vaults that makes it easy for a user to come in and actually like deposit into a DeFi kind of like environment, and just immediately gain the benefit of what has been curated for them. Now, this may be a little bit more centralized in creation, but it's decentralized in the nature of decision making, right? You have the option to see all of the things that are going on behind the scenes if we give it to you, right? Which I think that should be the goal of every DeFi protocol is like make things happen behind the scenes that make it very transparent for the user, but then give them the option to choose between a variety of those different things or a menu of them. One way we're doing this in Nucleus is by differentiating these native yield bearing tokens by the network that they are actually attributed to, right? So we've already announced that we're going live with Say and Eclipse, and Say and Eclipse will have two separate kind of like vault infrastructures to be able to mint these native yield bearing assets on chain, on the destination chain. And the thing is that like each of these chains kind of have like different risk preferences for their like community, their ecosystem, etc. So they'll be able to define the strategies that actually go on behind the scenes while we execute them. And then their users have the option of either saying, do we want to go through this aggregated, like easy yield bearing path to Say, or would we rather just take like our easy ETH to Say and then try and make stuff happen there? I will say that like building an ecosystem off of aggregated assets is much easier and simpler for a DeFi user, instead of having them kind of like choose which LRT is the best one to hold. Okay, well, we can maybe like optimize the portfolio like holdings of the different LRTs to kind of like give you an ideal basket of all of them and give you exposure to like a diversified portfolio of them. So I think like going back to what I was saying initially about vaults, I think that's the major way forward. I gave you an aside on like how Nucleus is doing so, but I also know other really interesting protocols. Like one of my friends, two interesting ones. One is Abisu. They're building like an aggregator of LRTs, a vault to aggregate LRTs and use that to collateralize a CDP, right? So now utilize your LRT assets to now mint stable USD based assets, and then redeem on the other side of that as well, all in a very risk adjusted manner. And then also there's a lot of like AI agent based projects that are utilizing vaults to kind of like make that interaction between a user and an AI agent um very very easy. So like I guess the summary of what I have to say is that like to make it more palatable for users, we need to make it feel like they're just utilizing a very simple maybe like savings account or something like that in DeFi. And they have like this idea like, oh, I can take like my savings account to maybe like a different protocol and like compound that yield. But at the very base level, it's simple to get into. I'm immediately earning yield. I know the risks that I'm exposed to and I know the strategies that are being done under here. And I trust the team that has actually built this. So I don't really have to worry too much. Ideally, that's like the road that we go down, I think.
I 100% agree
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, agreed. And also, there's, there are like two recent hot topics of the industry. One is definitely credit risk scores after Andre Cronje's post. And the second one, going all around the market at this moment, is the Eigenlayer's security model 2.0, right? So we'll like quickly touch upon both of these. First, going by how the Eigenlayer's security model 2.0 has changed the way AVS risks were defined, or even like crypto economic security for an AVS was defined. That is a very interesting thing to look into. I saw a recent post from Byzantine, and I think Jonas, someone from your team, or I think you were behind that entire description. So if you could give a quick brief on what's your understanding of the security model 2.0.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean we've been speaking to some people in the Eigenlayer tech team for some time and had a few advanced teasers on what that security model would look like, but we're really excited when it finally came out. And to me, it's something that makes the entire space a lot more sustainable. Because if we live in a world where there's only total stake, then the winning strategy is always to stake into every AVS, because someone that has a lower risk tolerance only wants to go for blue chip AVSs is immediately priced out by someone with a higher risk tolerance that is also willing to accept, let's say, a quote unquote lower price, or in this case, a lower APR for some of the more traditional, safer AVSs, meaning for a more risk averse staker, a pure total stake model isn't really feasible. And this is why I find unique stake so exciting, because it means that there is more, there's better options for every type of risk profile, for every level of risk tolerance. There's blue chip AVSs that are going to offer yield and that only really makes sense to stake into if they align exactly with your risk profile. The other exciting change from that, and that's obviously something that really aligns with our vision of the industry as well, is that it will make different AVS portfolios, different restaking portfolios, a lot more different than they were before. So what the LRTs are right now is almost like an ETF, right? You get in, you receive this tokenized share of a portfolio that right now covers nearly every AVS. But if in the future it becomes a lot more profitable to get a lot more specific about your AVS selection, we see it as really the way the industry is going to go, then there being a large variety of different portfolios. And at this point, this ties in very nicely with what Alex was saying a second ago regarding the vaults. Our core thesis around Byzantine and kind of how we've built our product is this idea of permissionless vaults, that we make it possible for anyone to set up this vault or get into the vaults of others. And to me personally, that's the answer to permissionlessness and decentralization while maintaining a certain ease of use. If you want to come in and you're interested in yield, then you pick something that someone that you trust, perhaps as a result of social proof on social media or Twitter or Telegram or something, has built. You get into that, you trust them, curate and manage that portfolio well. Or if you feel that you yourself would like to do it, then you're able to easily create this kind of vault yourself. And that fundamentally is the functionality that we've built Byzantine for, and we're just very, very excited to see the industry moving in that direction. So ton of thoughts on EigenLayer's new security model, and I see it as something very, very positive and sustainable.
Yeah, cool. Nadir, do you have some points to add on to that? Because you've seen things internally.
Hey, before you go, I'm gonna Byzantine, I'm gonna drop you and bring you back up. I think if I recall at the beginning of the space, you said you're on your PC, and I'm probably the only human that didn't get to hear what you were saying. It was probably good stuff, so I have to listen to the recording. But anyways, I'm gonna drop you, bring you back up, and go ahead, guys.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So
No, I don't really have a lot to add. I would just say if you want to learn more about the new security model, Sriram has tweeted about it. We've also written a blog post about it, and we also have documentation on it. So a lot to kind of dive into, but definitely worth checking out if you are considering building on EigenLayer and you want to just understand, how all that works.
yeah, cool. And now I'll head forward to Emmett, and especially speak about one of the other interesting use cases, which Andre Cronje recently said, and how Chainsight could potentially help on that. So as you guys have already been giving risk scores to certain assets, can we somehow go down to the vault level of, let's say, a particular user? So let's say a user has a particular position in MakerDAO, and for that particular position, can you give a certain credit score against his lending and borrowing to other lending and borrowing protocols, so that they can give a better interest rate or slash a dynamic interest rate to all of these guys? So I think that can also be a potential use case. Although Andre's post and the way they are assessing credit scores is mostly objective, where they are seeing whether what's your history of repayment of a particular loan which you've taken in DeFi, and depending upon that, they are segregating it across several stages. But they're not taking into account the volatility slash the market risks of your positions to actually give you the actual credit risk score per se. So how can actually Chainsight's current data plus whatever we can do on risk layers end can actually help provide that?
Yeah, so the beauty of Chainsight, in my opinion, is that you can use as much or as little as you need according to your use case. And off the top of my head, how we would go about something like this. And I think what's interesting here is that it opens up the whole knowledge of the crowd and basically like the collaboration between different ways of computing risk. So one of our very first financial indicator oracles that we created, like back when we were still in stealth, was the metric called value at risk, which basically gave a risk score depending on the portfolio or the assets that were held by a given address. And this could be extended to, for example, the vaults and the individual strategies. Although it would be more computationally intensive, it would be entirely possible to give a value of risk score to a specific address based on their vault positions, based on their overall portfolio, and then in collaboration with other risk vendors, risk providers, or anyone else that wants to provide data on the platform, this can be strung together to create different kind of oracles, like tertiary and like fourth level oracles that take into account all these different metrics provided by different actors. And that can ultimately result in, for instance, a dynamic interest rate oracle, a dynamic loan to value oracle. Back like to the point about like when we were still in stealth, the dynamic LTV was actually something we built like internally. It wasn't the most sophisticated because since we were in stealth, we weren't collaborating with as many third parties as we would have liked, but we were able to prove the concept that a oracle can be created that returns a dynamic loan to value ratio for a given user based on their address and different like risk metrics there. So yeah, just to summarize that, like I said in the beginning, as much or as little as needed for a given use case, we're happy to like collaborate with anyone on that node, whether they want to be a risk data provider or a consumer, or generally just help us out and work with us on these sort of more theoretical problems that could eventually have a great impact in the DeFi space.
That's actually pretty cool. Like, I just like to add to that. I think that this is like very well a direct application of the risk scores that we're building at Risk Layer. I think that the risk score that we're going to have is going to be a combination of the credit risk that any protocol will face, be it like uh, lending, borrowing. You can also have like a sort of I would call it as a hybrid or a derivative of the credit risk in terms of like other protocols as well. I mean, I'm calling it credit risk. There's other risks when it comes to like say AMMs, so on and so forth. And at the same time, the combination of credit risk in terms of like lending borrowing protocols, combination of credit risk plus insolvency risks that all these borrowing protocols face as well. I'm pretty sure that once the risk scores that have been computed and standardized according to the rules that we've set up at RiskViewer, I am pretty sure that like anyone, especially chain site, I think when I hear this point of yours that you're talking about, I'm pretty sure that you can just like directly query it, use it to make dynamic LTV ratios, so on and so forth, whatever you'd like. I'm also assuming there's also chances of like, I'm going to hazard a guess. I'm going to hazard a claim that we can even take care of the greater MEV claim in dynamic lending pools that Tarun Chitra and his associates have written about. How we're going to do that, I have like a faint idea, but yeah, I'll talk more about that once we figured something out like actually mathematically sound about it. But yeah, I think sounds like a great integration from our side as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to jam on this as well in Singapore. I'm flying out tomorrow actually, so whenever you guys get to
Yeah,
town, happy to
cool.
like grab a
Mostly
coffee.
we'll all meet together, except Horse, I guess, because I think he's sitting in the home and chilling with coffee. But yeah, I think So I won't take this conversation too long because we are already talking about one of the most boring topics, and that is risk, right? Like typically keeping it to the headline that make DeFi great again. If we were to actually go back to, let's say, the beginning of this year, if we had to take some steps to make DeFi great again, what would all of us build? That's one of the great questions to answer from all of our sides. So, starting off from Horse, what would you build or what would you do?
I think what you said is true and not true about it being boring. For us, per se, that are experienced, we would say it could be
I
boring.
mean,
But
it's very interesting for us as academic people,
oh
but it
yeah,
could be very boring for a lot of like degen investors, you could say.
oh yeah, but the thing is like I look at it right, and there's over 8 billion people on planet Earth, and we're such a small subset of humans that are actually in crypto, and then within that, we're people that do stuff on DeFi, right? So I think it's so important to have like credit scores, credit risk, like even a privacy layer for people, because like big money will not want to use DeFi products if they don't have a layer of privacy, but also yeah, like the risk scores and credit scores and everything like that. That's all the tools that are in kind of the traditional world should be in our industry as well. And I think that would flourish, right? If people can have that, that'll just be a net positive. I always look at everything as a net positive or a net negative. I think that would be a net positive. And so, to be honest with you, like something that you're doing is something that I would build. I would build out also not just that, but ways for people to easily make a little yield on their stable coins and make it easy for those, because like I don't remember if it was Nate Nader or who it was, but referring to cr- basically savings accounts and having your savings accounts be able to be moved and compound that, because like traditionally people understand that. Like my background was in taxation for, I did that for I think like 8 years. So I got to see people's financial wherewithal from like all financial perspectives, whether they're like literally like on the poverty line all the way up to essentially like billionaires. And the common denominator for most of that was that most people want to be hands off, they don't care, and they just want to make some yield with their money, their savings, so to speak, without having to do all the work. And they would rather pay fees and do all that. So there that's not nothing different here, right? Like to actively be good right now, kind of in DeFi, and be ahead of the curve, ahead of the narrative, and all that. You really actively have to like actively manage your funds and know and all this other stuff, and then also on top of that, we have all these different risks, right? And it's like you look at it sometimes, it's like really is that extra few percent worth the opportunity cost? Is it really worth it when it's like, yeah, you're technically making more than right now, like in America you can put your money in or just how you can put your money on Coinbase if you have Coinbase Pro and you get like 5.6%, right? Like that's not great, but that's pretty good, and you don't need to do anything. You just like put it there and whatever you want, right? And it's like maybe DeFi can offer something a little bit better than that, but then it's like, well, what's all the counter risk and everything else? So being able to maybe compete with that, and also yeah, like just make it easy for people so like anyone can do it, and that would be pretty good. Anyways, that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think if I would have been there start of this year, then maybe I could have done something around LRTs. But I think Jonas, if you could tell us about some hidden alphas which you are getting about the LRT or the AVSS space at this point, which all of us might not have an idea about. And if you would have been given the chance, you could have built that thing as well, alongside whatever you guys are doing at Byzantine.
All right, if you're looking for financial advice on what the next AVS to speculate on is, I'm not going to say anything for legal reasons. Dump everything you have into risk layer. That's what I'll say. This is financial advice. No, but I think Haas mentioned something really interesting, and that comes back to this kind of like vault question. 99%, perhaps not of the crypto space, but of the human population, wants to wants to put their money somewhere, not worry about it too much, and then make sure that their payments go through whenever they buy a coffee, and they want to have a yield that isn't. I think most people, when they want yield, it's not because they want a high number. It's not because they think about it rationally. I think it's because they want to feel like they're doing the right thing. They want to feel like, oh, they've put their money in a good place. They don't need to worry about that. So for me, that really comes down to trust. So if we want to make DeFi great again, we need to somehow find people or institutions that have that level of trust from the general population, and then put those people in place as the managers, as the effectively faces of certain crypto investing strategies. And to me, and I know that this is a very unsexy take to have, that's gonna involve a lot of TradFi institutions, especially banks. If we want to talk about our parents or grandparents ever holding any crypto, it is going to happen through any of the financial organizations that they already know and trust. And so to me, the way to make DeFi great again is to start having those kinds of conversations. This is how we onboard the next billion people onto DeFi. That's the very long, very philosophical answer. How to do this exactly, I haven't the slightest idea, but it's a good direction. It's a good thought.
I mean, yeah, you should definitely be a visionary, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, Alex, over to you. If you were to build anything apart from walls, then what would you build?
Anything apart from vaults? One idea that
Very
I'm
difficult
I'm
question.
kind of working on. I mean, like, I think governance related tools are very interesting, especially when you think of like governance related tools in respect to like number one, treasury management, and number two, like decision making. Chain risk and risk layer, they're doing a great job on the decision making side. But in terms of treasury management, I think like there's been a lot of discussion about like whether to diversify a treasury or not diversify a treasury, and this is specifically like a DAO's treasury. I think like exploring ways to diversify DAO treasuries into restaking in order to expand a protocol's ecosystem by creating like services that either build off of the primitive or expand to like benefit the primitive, like that would be really cool, kind of like a pseudo type of like M&A process where you can, instead of like buying a company, you just provide them the economic security to then be able to actually like exist. um I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're all pretty much very bullish still about DeFi, and I think a lot of the institutional movements also have to happen over the next few years, not let's say 1 or 2 years, but in the next 5 or 10 years, to actually pump the DeFi TVL a lot. But apart from pumping the TVL, you would have a lot of potential actual use cases coming up apart from like the traditional DeFi, which you've seen across Aave Compound, Maker, Uniswap, and all of these use cases. But yeah, what would you have built, Emmett, if you were at this point, just a builder nerd trying out stuff in DeFi?
Yeah, this might be a little bit boring, but honestly, what I'd want to build is a wallet solution that solves, or at least attempts to solve, the esoteric, it's a very esoteric issue of self custody, and how to do it right. I feel like it's still like there are solutions to this, yes, some that are quite sophisticated, but I do, it would be more focused on like execution and go to market more than anything, but like a wallet that does mainly two things, which is some form of social recovery, account recovery, to for users to be able to do self custody in a more secure way, and also that integrates these sort of risk metrics into it, into like a user friendly dashboard or discovery panel, and basically just give I would be building this with the to the point that gets brought up a lot. Like, what if this was my mom using it, grandmother, grandfather? You get the point. Would they be able to understand that? Oh, this is how I recover my account if anything happens. Oh, this is how I view the different like risks associated with a given like DeFi protocol. So yeah, mainly just that, like a pretty standard wallet, but with some social recovery and better insights baked into it.
Cool. That was not a boring answer per se, but yeah, if I think Abhimanyu would have been given the second chance, what would he be doing?
I would just do Rescue, man. Pretty much, like, because I remember even you and I, when we were sitting in like that bar in Vietnam and we were thinking about Risk Layer, we were like, what does DeFi need, man, right now? What do we do, right? And we were like, we're in the business of risk. And we also want to be able to make sure that it's not just like this. We don't want to play the centralized game. We also love the infra game. And now it's like, how do we combine the both of them in a way that's so intuitive and so, like I would, you know, call me stupid or something, but I'll call it like beautiful architecturally, so that we are secure, and at the same time we're using our security to secure every type of financial application that you can build on top of it. I think even Sriram wrote about something like this, but in the context of co-processors, I guess, with intelligent DeFi. That was something again that resonated with me too. And yeah, I would just do Risk Layer again, man. Definitely. Like I'm pretty much doing what I was supposed to do, I guess.
Yeah, cool. I think Tyree has joined us back. So the last question to you, Tyree, is we were all discussing that if we had to make DeFi great again, then what all would all of us build if we were given the opportunity to rebuild at this point?
Yeah, so this is sort of what I deal with every day in my personal journey, right? Is uh, what do I actually want to see happen next? It's hard for me to sort of like unwind it and say, well, if I was starting 5 years ago when I got in, what would I rather have started to build? Because I think that hindsight's 2020. It's not really valuable. But if I was starting today, fresh to the ecosystem, the first thing that I would see, number one, is just how broken everything is and how omni-chain solutions are siloed to certain frameworks, and how I think, as it was just mentioned, wallet solutions are extremely cumbersome and not user-friendly at all, and generally confusing. You have to start with what do the people need? Um, and like I sort of mentioned a little bit earlier before I hopped off the call, what the people needed when we got into the space was disintermediation. We needed to abandon our blind loyal trust to governments and corporations, and we needed peer-to-peer total financial autonomy. And I think focusing back again on what the rails of that look like in light of all of the great infrastructures that have been built over the past few years. How do we maximize the benefit of all of this innovation to build one thing that lets you take advantage of all of that infrastructure out there? And so, very simply, I would build what I'm building next. Right. That's the next thing for me is looking at this from the outside. I want to use any currency anywhere. I want to have the best and most advanced automations ecosystem to be able to sort of have to take advantage of opportunities as they arise in real time without needing to be glued to the market. And I would like this to be a more engaging, two-way engaging ecosystem. Where governance is not a burden, but it's a joy, right? And that we appreciate and love our freedom that we get from this libertarian crypto movement. I think that is sort of my vision for the future. So, to put it short, I really think that whatever we build next, all needs to be focused on fixing the information asymmetry and fixing the fragmentation of user experience more than fragmentation of liquidity, but the fragmentation of user experience in order to sort of move into the next era of DeFi a lot stronger.
Yeah, I think, Abhimanyu, we were also speaking about fixing information asymmetry, right? I think that was one of the major things which caught our attention down at CoinFest Bali.
Yes, yes. I remember this was one thing I think which even Alex was talking about right now, right? With the governance tool that we created with maids. That was one. So this was the next step in using basically in improving the maids aspect of what we were developing at Janus Labs, where we're using maids to analyze incentives of governance nodes in order to make sure that the governance games, whatever games they're playing amongst themselves, games in the sense of the game theoretical games, that's always secure. So GEV, there's governance extractable value, which is like sort of an economic attack like MEV is right now. It's basically to minimize the advent of GEV, and it's basically using maids. And yeah, so information asymmetry is the next step in improving that paper and improving our research. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a very interesting take.
Yeah, but I think, I would love if Cosmos himself ends this particular podcast. But what's your generic view? Have you ever had, one of the most technical podcasts like this?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's kind of right up my alley. It's really what I do a lot, actually. Cosmos people are, and I'm not trying to be a homer or anything, but Cosmos people, for the most part, out of any ecosystem in all of crypto are the most technical. I mean, that's all Cosmos is. It's super technical. And I'm even speaking about the general user, like, right? If you came into this space as a Cosmos user, especially a few years ago, you literally had to know so much of like why stuff works, how it works, how to go from one blockchain to the other, if like the packet is pending, why, knowing that it's 100% safe and how the STK works and how IBC, like there's just so much technical jargon. The fact that it was the first time in all of crypto, like we basically have free software that you can use as a builder, and the fact that Cosmos, like Atom, right, the whole fact of like you don't even need really Atom, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for the Atom token price valuation, is technically you didn't even really need Atom to do anything. And there's like over 90 blockchains and how they all interoperate with one another. So generally, and I've done so many spaces and I've tuned into so many spaces. It's so technical. Like people are throwing around technical jargons all the time, and then you go to like other, like if you go check out a Solana space, it's 100% different. Like it just has. There's really no technical jargon for the most part. For the most part, I'm not gonna say there isn't at all, but yeah. So to answer your question, I know you said you wanted to be short, and I know that wasn't really short. Yes, absolutely. I enjoy all of it. I love learning. And I think the people that listen, the thing that I try to do though is I didn't really necessarily interject as much, but try to like recap it, give like analogies or metaphors or something, because a lot of people, they hear people speaking, developers, they're talking a different language for the most part compared to most users. So they want to know like, what the hell are you guys even talking about? So I try to use like analogies and metaphors so they understand it better. But anyways, this has been a great conversation. That's why I want people to like and retweet it, because I never asked for that, but like I think it's useful for people to get it out there and say like, hey, like, what's the issues with DeFi? These are some solutions, and this is what they're doing, like Risk Layer and Layer and everyone else in here is doing to like kind of address that, because we need DeFi to be great again. We need it. I mean, in all seriousness, we need it to be great again. Like we need it to be trustful, respectful, reliable, and useful and easy. Right? Like that's the part that like it still hasn't really been addressed. It is. It's starting to be, but like we need it to just be easy for people, or else you're just gonna have people say, "Ah, screw it." I'm just going to keep my funds on Coinbase, earn 5% if I want to like just stack stable coins, and maybe I'll just buy, Solana or ETH or Bitcoin or whatever and just keep it there, right? Like why should I want to go outside of this? So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think that covers most of it. So thanks all of you guys for joining in today. And this is like a pre-token 2049 warm-up spaces. We are only going to talk and talk when we land in token 2049. So all of us, gear up for that. But yeah, whoever is not there in token 2049, happy to catch up separately as well. Cool. Uh, but yeah, no worries, Hoss. We can always meet over meets, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Tyree's of course there to keep the connection going on.
For sure. The last thing I wanted to do is fly 19 hours in a flight and have to like cough and be that person. So that's why I just need to get better, because I'm going to Dubai next month. So I want to get better. I don't want to be coughing. I hate coughing. And but in all seriousness, thank you all the speakers, everyone that tuned in, everyone that listens to the recording. Yeah, it's been a good one, and I encourage everyone to get involved. Like I don't care what skill set you have, you can bring it into this industry and get involved. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the speakers, and to everyone that spoke before that had to dip out too. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, see
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
in
us.
token 2049.
It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun. Yeah. See you guys in
yeah,
person.
yeah.
Yeah,
Take
see you
care.
guys.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend.
Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.